Hello, we've got a Volkswagen Passat B6. We'll be replacing the flexible joint in the exhaust system. In other words, the flex pipe. It's my first time installing a used one. Well, we've got a used one, so we're using a used one. It's original, maybe it'll last longer, maybe not. Here we'll match it up to the original weld joints and weld it in place. I'll show you the workflow, at least how I do it, what happens, and how everything goes, and so on. So, let's go. I disconnected the battery because we'll be welding near the engine. It's best to disconnect the battery when welding. I hope it works out. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I'd prefer not to remove the whole catalytic converter, but just do it in place. Maybe it'll work, maybe not. We'll see. Either way, to remove the catalytic converter, we need to take off this whole aluminum frame. I think it also holds the steering column. The bolts here tend to rust and don't want to come loose. So we'll see how it goes for us. We remove the exhaust pipe bracket. At first, I don't rush with the impact gun. I loosen all the bolts by hand first to see what turns and what doesn't, so nothing snaps off. This one will turn. Next, the engine mount. Yes, it will come off from the body. Now the question is the stabilizer bar and the steering column. If needed, we can remove the stabilizer bar from the shock absorbers. Let's try. The small 13mm bolts should turn. They should start moving. Next, the steering column, 4 bigger bolts. They should turn as well. So maybe someone has already worked on it before, since they turn so easily. The column will come off, the stabilizer will probably come off too. We'll move it back and forth little by little. Now from the control arm, there's a rusted ball joint on that side. It didn't work for us. Let's try here as well, turning the whole thing. Looks like it's turning. We loosened it up. If we had used the impact gun right away, we might have snapped it. We heated it up a bit, and now it turns.
Yeah. Looks.
Everything is loosened up. Only the stabilizer bar bolts are still partially stuck, but we should be able to free them by moving back and forth. In theory, everything should come loose. Looks like we've loosened everything. Now only 4 bolts remain from the body. There's still this one holding this wire bracket with a 10mm head. We remove that as well. So here's what we have. The power steering is loose. Here's the steering column, the stabilizer bar, and now we have access to the flex pipe. I'd prefer not to remove the whole catalytic converter. Maybe we can cut and weld it like this. There is some space. We might be able to go around with the welder. Here as well, somehow? Not sure yet. Maybe we'll still have to remove it. Usually I always remove it. Now maybe I'll try differently, but this bracket is hard to access, unless we cut the bracket and weld it back later to get access. It's hard to reach. 2 bolts here and 4 bolts for the bracket into the block. Some wires also need attention here. So maybe I'll try doing it in place without removing everything. We'll see how it goes. If it doesn't work, we'll remove the whole exhaust. Here, I take the whole bracket out of the rubber mounts. That gives a bit more space. All right, I'll try cutting. Cut here, cut on top. Now I can't fully reach here, so I cut it off from the muffler side and then we can try disconnecting from the joint and pull it out.
Ir išsitraukti.
On the ground we can trim it more, because on the car I couldn't reach with the grinder. At first I used a small disc, then switched to a bigger one. Went around as much as possible. Where I couldn't reach, like here, there was a small gap left, a couple of centimeters, so we take something like pliers and cut it off. We're replacing old with old, old bad with old good. Maybe it'll last for a while. I cut it as far as possible, then we'll measure, trim it more if needed, or measure right away. Actually, we can still adjust from here. Maybe better to measure right away so we don't have to cut 10 times. Looks like it will fit. We cut here near the weld. But to measure precisely, we need to reinstall the bracket. All right, now we cut it. Then we clean the metal so it's ready for welding. Up there as well, we clean it. All right, now we can weld, but we need to set the correct angle of the exhaust system. Here we fit it into the bracket. Everything is fine. We need to align these 2 tabs that go into the mount. We can't move too much sideways, otherwise the pipe will be twisted, stressed, and vibrations may appear. So now we need to put this cross member back onto the car, install the exhaust mount into place, and then weld the flex pipe at the correct distance and angle. I thought we could just cut it like that, since we have space to adjust. But we can't, because there's very little movement in the mount. There is some minimal movement in the rubber mounts, but not much, so it has to be as precise as possible. And how do we do that? We simulate everything in place. So I loosely install the cross member with a couple of bolts, and then we'll align it precisely. If it gets in the way, I'll remove it again for final welding. First, I assemble the exhaust system as it will be in the car. Then I tack weld it so it holds in place. After that, I make better access and fully weld it. All right, let's do it. I brought the welder, adjusted it. We adjust it based on the exhaust pipe. Since the metal is thin, I placed one tack weld. That one didn't come out great. Second tack weld, and the same on top. One on one side, one on the other. Now, the flex pipe is sitting as it should. And now we try to weld it fully. I'll weld as much as I can without moving it, because if we remove it now, the tack welds might break or shift. So I weld from the tack points, run a bead as far as I can. Then maybe we'll remove the cross member again to reach the rest. Maybe we'll manage without removing it. Let's try. Run the weld bead. Like this. Honestly, it's very inconvenient. Let's try removing the cross member, because the front is very hard to reach. Maybe it'll be easier. Now it's much easier to reach, so I weld as much as I can from one side, then from the other. On top, you're basically welding blind. Then we check with a mirror. And here's what we've got. A gap not welded. Here I can't even see the pipe edge, so I just aim roughly and weld blindly. It came out okay. Not pretty, but welded. Oh, there's still a small gap. So we need to aim with a mirror and weld again. Why can't you weld while looking in the mirror? I'll show you. After a few uses, the mirror gets destroyed, covered in weld splatter, and you can't see anything. After a few welds, it gets burned and dirty, and you can't see clearly anymore. So I aim with the mirror, remove it, weld a bit, check again, like that we keep going. Up there? Honestly, I won't even show you. I'm not a professional welder. It's uncomfortable, it's hard. Overhead welding is the most difficult. I do what I can. For an exhaust system, it's enough. It's not pretty, but I always paint the welds afterwards. At first I didn't paint them, but after a few months the welds get rusty. So now I spray them. Even normal paint works. It burns a bit, but still protects and prevents rust. Now what do we do next? We try starting the car. We block the exhaust at the back with a cloth and check for leaks. Maybe we'll need to add another weld spot. Maybe on top it leaks. We'll test it. We block it so pressure builds up, and we can feel if it leaks. No leaks. Everything is fine. I'm surprised even the top part where I welded blindly doesn't leak. It's ugly, but sealed. No need for paste. I'll just spray paint to prevent rust. Speaking of paste, there are different kinds for exhaust systems. Some are better, some worse. This one works well lately. Cheap ones don't harden properly. This one is decent. Paste helps fix small mistakes, but I prefer to weld properly. Sometimes you can feel leaks by hand. Thin pipe, spot welds, small gaps between spots. You feel air escaping. Then just add another weld spot. Or use paste, but if the welder is there, just fix it properly. So now I spray paint over everything. A few layers just to protect from rust. We cleaned the metal, removed the coating, heated it. It will rust, so we protect it. Spray around everything and it won't rust. Paste is also useful for joints that leak. Loosen, apply paste, tighten. It seals. It's mainly for that, but can be used in different ways. So now I spray it. Don't forget this one wire before lifting everything up, otherwise there will be no access. This bracket mounts to the cross member. Once lifted fully, it'll be harder to reach, so I install it now. Then tighten everything, grease the bolts, lift the cross member, attach it to the body. Then stabilizer bar, steering column, arms. We can move it. See? If I tighten like this, it shifts forward. It won't match original marks. So I always align the cross member to the original bolt positions. If it moves, alignment changes. So after such work, it's best to do a wheel alignment check. I try to match original positions as closely as possible. Now I tighten everything. So, on this Passat, we replaced the exhaust flex pipe. There was quite a lot of disassembly. That's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.